So Jacob made a vow, and I guess he was part of God's winning team because he'd made a vow. He'd made a faith statement. He said, I know God is going to help me. God is going to bless me. And by faith, I'm going to receive that prosperity, that blessing, even now. You see, when we give our tithe, we're entering into a covenant, an agreement with God that he will bless us as we bless him. It's like when Alison and I had that challenge with our finances because the interest rates were going crazy, we didn't think, well, we'll stop tithing now. Why not? Because we'd made a vow 3 years before that we were going to give a tenth of everything God gave us back to him. And so it wasn't a question, it was a no-brainer. And you see, when we stick with our vow, we become faithful. We become full of faith and faithful. We become faithful people. And even now, 33 years later, I want to say we pay our tithes absolutely regularly. We are faithful in tithes and offerings. We give to the building funds. We look to bless people. Why? Because when we're a blessing, when we're a giver, then God thinks, who can I give to? I know, I'm going to give to the givers. And so we need to have an attitude like Jacob. When we've got nothing, is a good time to make a vow, to make a promise to God. And God hears those promises and it moves his heart to bless us. Maybe you need to look at vows in terms of your marriage. Maybe you need to look at your marriage vows and think, I'm going to put my wife or my husband as number one. Maybe you need to make a vow as a single person and think, God, how can I serve you with my life in a way that makes my life powerful and effective for your kingdom? Maybe you need to make a vow in terms of service. God, I'm going to serve you more. I'm going to live for you more than I ever have done before. And so Jacob had what all of us have to start with. Even though he had nothing materially, he had something in his heart, and that was faith. And he spoke that faith. He lifted that pillar. He poured the oil on, and he said, this is the house of God. And he made a vow and said, God, if you bring me back here, I'm going to fulfill my vow and give you a tenth of all that I have. This story of tithing doesn't originate in America or Britain or anywhere else. It's the Middle East. It happened 4,000 years ago, but it's as true today as it was then. And God wants our lives to prosper. He wants them to go from bad to good. He wants them to go from good to great. He wants everything in our life to move upward and forward in him. He wants his blessing to be on us. So here's the second thing. How did Jacob learn to prosper when he started with nothing? Well, he got to where he was going to go, found some relatives, managed to get married, but his father-in-law was a bit of a crook, and he kind of reaped what he sowed. He'd been a bit deceptive himself, and sure enough, he got ripped off 10 times in his wages, in all kinds of ways. You're going to have to read it all. It's a great story, really, really exciting. But this is what happened that with his prosperity. God spoke to him in a dream. You see, there's certain ways, this is what I found as a Christian, God speaks to us all individually in certain ways. Now, the way he speaks to you may be different from the way he speaks to me, or my wife, or other people I know, because God treats us as individuals. He always speaks through the word, but then he often speaks to us in special ways as well, which are unique to us. For Jacob, it was in dreams. And so this is what it says just over the page here in Genesis 31. It says, it came time when the flock were mating, verse 10, and I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, behold, the male goats which were mating were striped and speckled and mottled. Then the angel of the Lord said to me in a dream, Jacob. And I said, here I am. He said, lift up your eyes and see that these male goats are mating, for I've seen that all as Laban has been doing to you, your father-in-law. I'm the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar, where you made the vow to me. You see, God doesn't forget it when we make a vow. It stirs his heart and he remembers it. And then God showed him in this dream how to breed these sheep in such a way that the speckled and the spotted ones became his property. That was the agreement he has with his father-in-law. And all the pure white ones became the property of his father-in-law. Did you know that Jacob's sheep, that breed of sheep, is still with us today, 4,000 years later, just as it says in the Bible? You see, every word of this book is anointed. Every word of this book is designed to do you good, to shape your life, and to give you an advantage in life. And so Jacob had two dreams. Many people know the dream of Jacob's ladder, but few people know that he had a prosperity dream, a way of thinking about things, something that came to him in a powerful dream that led to his success. Can I tell you, many inventions and scientific discoveries have come not through people shaking a test tube, but by God illuminating things. People waking up and thinking, hang on a minute, what if I tried this? And then that thing is their point of breakthrough. In business that happens. It's well documented with Colonel Saunders, the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy, and many other business people, how their success has been through divine inspiration that has led them to the thing that where everyone says, oh, how clever you were, but that was the key to success. You see, God wants to prosper us and do us good. And so here's the third thing. How did God help Jacob overcome his problems? I mean, if God had prospered him and if he had all these sheep and things like that, how did he have any problems? You see, when we have nothing, we can think that if we have something, all our problems will disappear. No, everything multiplies. And if you want free of problems, you're going to have to go to heaven, because while you're alive, problems happen. And so Jacob, God speaks to him and says, go back to that place where you made your vow to me so that you can fulfill your tithe and fulfill your tenth. And as he's traveling back home, he hears news. His brother is coming to meet him. You remember the brother that wanted to murder him? Although this time he's coming with 400 men who are armed. Now I don't know what your problems are today, but most of us, even if someone's chasing you to kill you, they don't have 400 guys with them as well, also intending to do that. And so in Genesis 32, Jacob did what we should always do when we have a problem. We need to take that problem to God. And this is what Jacob says, O God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, who said to me, return to your country and your relatives, and I will prosper you. I'm unworthy of all the loving kindness and all the faithfulness which you've shown your servant. For with my staff only I crossed the river Jordan, and have now become 2 companies of people. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, the hand of Esau, for I fear him, and he will come and attack me and the mothers with children. For you said, surely I will bless you and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which is too great to be numbered. So God obviously spoke to him. He spent the night there crying out to God. And when we have a problem, let's take it to the Lord. And God must have given him this revelation because, you know, sometimes God prospers us, but it's not for us. And sometimes God prospers us and it's time to let go and give that thing to God. And all of Jacob's sheep and lambs wouldn't have done him any good if he'd been a dead man. And so it says he decided to send a present to his brother Esau, and this is the present he sent ahead of him, being driven on by his servants. 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milking camels and their colts, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. And when you calculate the value of those animals, in conservative terms, you're looking at between £100,000 and at least £250,000. What a present to give! Who'd love to give who'd love to receive a present like that? Well, who'd love to give a present like that? Wouldn't it be amazing if you could give a present like that and still have plenty for your family and your kids? That's how much God had prospered him. I don't know what Jacob's net worth was, but you can imagine if that's a present, that's amazing. I was reading of a millionairess, one of the richest women on the planet, and she gave a birthday party for her daughter, and she only spent £70,000 on that party. You see, Jacob, by comparison, was immensely wealthy. God had prospered him, and God also showed him how to overcome his problems, how to make peace with people, how to right wrongs, and how to settle accounts. And God wants to prosper us so that we are blessed, but then we overcome our problems in life. You see, when he had nothing, God gave him a word. God gave him an edge. God gave him something, a dream, a spoken promise. And in response to that promise, he made his vow. And in response to that vow, God looked after him and resolved everything. Isn't that amazing? God wants to do the same for you and me. And so as we live our lives, we go from nothing to something greater, and we start to fulfill our destiny.